Good afternoon. I hope you've had a blessed day this far. Um, I've had a good day so far, so that's a blessing. So today we're going to be talking about one of the fruits of the Spirit, which is long suffering. Long suffering in the dictionary means having or showing patience in spite of troubles, especially those caused by other people. Okay, and then it gives an example. His long suffering wife. Oh, aren't we all? Galatians 5:22 through 23 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control." So, long suffering is a character and a trait that confirms, as believers, the presence of the Holy Spirit in us. Um, and long suffering looks like being patient, having endurance, perseverance. That is long suffering. Um, and Godly long suffering is does something good in us. We might not see it, but as a believer, we know that some, not all believers, um, that's it. For example, for me, I've been doing the long suffering thing for a while, and it's not easy. But with God's grace, um, I have the ability to endure without complaining, without compromising, and without quitting. Which before I would have just gave up. Um, and then this fruit of the Spirit, long suffering, no matter the trial, the circumstance, or how difficult it is, we do what is right. We do what is right according to the word. In doing so, we grow spiritually and mentally, emotionally. We grow in these areas with our long suffering, this fruit of the Spirit. And it's during these times of pressure that other fruits of the Spirit can also be seen. Like when we're during a trial, when we're doing the long suffering, uh, love, kindness, and all those other fruits of the Spirit will show, because you need all those other two to be able to do the long suffering. Because you can't do long suffering without love. You can't do long suffering without patience. They go hand by hand. And if you're not doing long suffering, it will show also. Um, and some suffering is caused by our own stupidity. And I will attest to that because I've been there before. And I used to ask, God, why does this happen to me? Why do I have to go through this? But it was because of my choices. It was because I was trying to stay in a relationship that I had no business staying in. I wasn't even married or something like that. Or why am I so sick? But yet I was smoking and drinking and I couldn't breathe. I was coughing in the mornings, and it was because I was suffering the consequences of my actions. So sometimes some suffering is because of our bad choices. It is not, and we have to look within and be honest with ourselves, and be like, hey, this stuff is happening because it's my fault. I've been doing this and that, which is causing me to I'm going through all this suffering. And that suffering does nothing to you but keep you suffering. But godly suffering will come when you let go of those things. When you're honest with yourself and you face the reality that you're causing some of those problems, then the godly suffering will begin when you stop. For example, for me, it was stop overeating. When I stopped smoking, when I stopped nagging at my husband, then the godly long suffering started to begin in me, because now I was suffering for a good cause. I was suffering, saying it was hard for me to say no to food, but with God's grace, I was able to say no to food. It was hard for me to quit smoking, but by God's grace, I was able to quit smoking. And I was suffering in those times that I wanted to smoke, but I chose not to. Same. In my marriage, I was telling God, oh, help my marriage, help me with my marriage. But it was until I decided to stop nagging and stop just speaking everything that came to my mind. I stopped saying everything that came to my mind. That's when long suffering became, because I had to bite my tongue and I had to lead with love and patience. And that's when godly long suffering began for me. And it will begin for you too. So let's keep in mind, there's long suffering. There's suffering because it's our own fault, and then there's the godly suffering that will do that you will get something good at the end. Okay, First Timothy 1:6 and says, if you cannot do the long suffering, okay, no, this is what I say. So if you cannot do the long suffering, you will not have breakthrough, because it starts with you. You have to start it. You can't say, oh, I'll stop suffering when that person changes, or I'll stop suffering when that person gets fired and leaves this company. No, it starts with you. You make the change. You do what it takes to be at peace and walk in love. As a believer, that's what you're supposed to do. FYI. Okay, 1 Timothy 1:6 and says, however, for this reason, I obtain mercy, that in me, first Jesus Christ might show all long suffering as a pattern to those who are going to believe on him for everlasting life. So, just like Christ died on that cross for me and did all the long suffering for my sins that he didn't commit, so do I have to do the same thing. Showing the same pattern that Jesus did, the long suffering that he endured, so do I have to do it. And in that manner, maybe then they will see they will see how a believer is supposed to be. Long-suffering, kind, full of love, full of patience. And then that might win them over and turn them to Christ because of how you are. So, just like Jesus endured all that long suffering and on the cross, so can we. We're not dying on the cross. We just need to die to ourselves and sometimes just shut up. And sometimes just shut our mouth and stop eating or whatever it is that we're doing that is causing us to suffer. But Jesus is an example of what long suffering is. And our suffering is nothing compared to his. So we win people over by long suffering, by leading, walking in love, walking in the Spirit with the other fruits of the Spirit. And then we will have, we walk in long suffering in our marriage, with our children, with our health. If you want to have a nice fit body, well, you're going to have to go long suffering into the gym and do what it takes to get that nice body you want. You know, that promotion. You have to work hard to get that promotion. It might not be long suffering like Jesus died on the cross, but it takes discipline to get there. It takes patience. It takes love. It takes meekness, gentleness to get to where you want, because you ain't going to get nowhere with a bad attitude, with anger issues, being impatient. No, good things take time. So, little things take little suffering. So, I don't know what you're hoping for, what you're trying to change. Little things will take little long suffering. Big things, if you're asking for big things, those will take big long suffering. Okay? So if we can get past the little suffering, we are not ready for the big things that we might be asking God for. Maybe we're asking God for something so big, but our endurance is like this. And for that big thing you're asking for, you need endurance this big. So first you need to get past this little endurance, this little suffering, so you can get to this big long suffering that you need to go to what you're wanting, that big prayer you're asking for. Um, okay, so like I said, big prayers might need big long suffering, but like I said, you only have this much long suffering, so you need to build it up to this for that prayer to be answered. Okay. And big prayers might need big, longer suffering, and God wants to deliver us. But we must stop complaining, stop compromising, and stop quitting right before you hit gold. We do that a lot. I've done that a lot. Compromising as well. Just like with our children, sometimes we want change. Being a good parent is hard. Period. If you want your children to obey and listen and create good human beings, parenting is hard. And you need long suffering, you need patience, you need consistency. If you compromise and give in all the time, then you won't have the children that you're hoping for, because you compromise and you're giving up too much. You quit. You don't stay consistent with your rules, your chores, the discipline that you're telling them to do. You quit. You compromise. You just give up because it's too hard. So we need to learn that unless we learn to long suffering, then we're not gonna get to where we're hoping to. But we also have to understand that God gives us the grace to do these things. And if we're not getting to places, sometimes it's because we don't want to do the work that it takes to get there. For a good marriage to work, you're going to have to be quiet. You're going to have to stop nagging. You're going to have to be kind. You're going to have to be loving. And somebody in this relationship is going to have to be the bigger person and choose to lead the way. Okay? Maybe it's time for you to serve your spouse. And then when you start serving your spouse is going to be like, man, this spouse of mine does love me. Let me do something for her. Let me do something for him. And then your spouse will start serving you. Why? Because you did the long suffering. You were there with patience, love, and kindness. So you win them over in that manner. Okay? But someone's got to do it, and maybe it's you. I had to do it. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes we're battling a battle that is already, it's the Lord's, but we continue battling. We're just fighting ourselves. And God is just watching us like, if you would just quit fighting and give me the battle and just lead with love, kindness, and gentleness, you will have your victory. You will have your breakthrough. But we have to lead with love. Okay, so Colossians 3:12 says, therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, and long suffering. Okay, so you have to choose to do these things. And God gives us a grace, a time frame. Like when we're like, I'm doing this. And God knows our heart. We can't lie to God. We can lie to ourselves and to others, but we can't lie to God. When we really decide that this is it, I'm going to do what it takes for my marriage to work, I'm going to put on mercies, tender mercies. I'm going to put on kindness. I'm going to put on humility. I'm going to put on meekness. I'm going to put on long suffering, and I'm going to make my marriage work. God gives you the grace to be able to do it. When people are hurting you, you forgive, you let go, and you come to God. You cry out to God, and God will comfort you and give you greater peace, greater fruits of the Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit, I see them as a muscle. You have to work them for them to grow. If you don't work them, if you don't put them to the test, if trials and stuff don't come to your life, then they'll be small. But if you're pushing through and doing what God is commanding us to do, walking in mercies and love and kindness and all that, we'll grow, and we won't be affected by all the things. We'll have endurance. We'll we'll have perseverance to push through and not be all flaky, shaky. Galatians 6:9, and I'll leave you with this. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessings if we don't give up. If we don't give up. The Lord has been putting in my mind, in my heart, long suffering. Just a little word, long suffering, over and over again. Over and over again. And it's a reminder of, am I reacting with anger, hate, slander? How am I reacting? And if it's not with love, kindness, meekness, I change it, because I shouldn't be reacting like that. Am I responding with love, meekness, and all that stuff? If I'm not responding in that manner, then I shouldn't be doing that. So you have to, if you need to say something, say it, but say it with love. Don't say like nagging and being critical. No. Say what you need to say and do it with love. So that's all I have. And I hope this helps you. This is how I did it. This is how I do it. This is a work in progress. It's never ending. Like I said, the bigger your prayers, the bigger the long suffering. So just get ready. But God is so merciful and graceful with us that He gives us exactly what we need, right when we need it. So you have a blessed day. Bye-bye.